From the Washington, D.C. capital area comes MC and producer Substantial. Fresh off the release of his new project, Masters of the Artistry, with producer Marcus D of the group Bop Alloy, Substantial returns with a soulful and lyrically rich album featuring Blue, Stephanie Gale, One Below, and more. This project's filled with standout records to include You Don't Have No Idea, Wind Blown, and Audio Sunshine. In addition to this new album, Substantial and Bop Alloy have built a deep discography, as Bop Alloy is known for projects such as Substantial, Marcus D, or Bop Alloy, and Another Day in the Life of. As a solo artist, Substantial has released acclaimed projects such as Adultish, Home is Where the Art Is, Sacrifice, and more. Substantial has also collaborated with hip-hop heavyweights such as DJ Kool Herc, Odyssey, Mega Ran, Yoko Kanno, and more. Tune in to learn about his journey in music, the making of Masters of the Artistry, and what he's got coming next on the Cristopolis Show number 282. From the Washington, D.C. capital area comes MC and producer Substantial. He just released a new project as part of his group Bop Alloy with Marcus D. It's entitled Mastery of the Artistry. We're going to bring him in and talk to him about this new project, plus his incredible career. Let's bring him in.
Peace. What up, brother?
There he is. Salute, my brother.
Peace. Salute, man. Good to see you again.
Hey, man, it's an honor to have you back on the Cristopolis Show. We're right here with a DC legend, I would say global, right?
I
Because
appreciate it.
so much of your reach goes outside of the United States, right? Into
Yeah,
Japan,
yeah.
but also into Europe. You're back now with Substantial on the mic, but this is a Bop Alloy
Yeah.
project, right? Um,
hmm
really dope thing that you and Marcus D have created. Let's talk
Thank you.
about, since we're diving into this new project and you're so active, there's so much to talk about that's substantial, right?
hmm
But we
hmm
want to give this project a little space to breathe and talk about it and make sure that people can learn about it. Probably a good place, at least for me, you know what I'm saying? I'm like mad curious, is like the
hmm
origin story. How did you connect with Marcus D, who's an incredible producer, and how did we get to the third album?
Yeah, man. Marcus D and I, we go back, man. I want to say we first connected 2007. What's really crazy about that too is that Marcus was 16. I think he was 16 at the time, man. Because I'm 10 years older than him.
Wow.
So he
Wow.
actually reached out to me via MySpace. So he hits me up on MySpace back in the day, and was saying he was a young producer, asking me to check out his stuff. Type of message I get all the time.
Yeah.
And man, I gave his music a listen, and I was really impressed. Like outside of him being young and talented, like his stuff was just really, really solid.
Yeah.
And yeah, so man, that's how it came to be. And I basically stepped to my former agent who used to represent me in Japan. And I basically told him, I was like, man, I think if I did a full length project with this dude, this was after we had already done 2 songs. I was like, man, his sound, I feel like is a good mesh of what my fans over there like, but the drums hit the way people here prefer. So it's a good balance of both worlds. And so I just knew, I was like, man, this could be something special if me and this kid like continue to work. And man, fast forward, like, we've toured the world together and stuff, made a lot of music and stuff. This was the new album, Masters of the Artistry, which you can see in the back. This is the first album, like, where we literally were in the studio with each other the whole time we work, because usually
Oh,
it's
that's
just sending
dope.
files. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really special in this era to actually
hmm
connect and not do it over the internet. That's
Yeah,
dope. Well, that's so I didn't know that there was that much of an age, difference,
yeah, yeah.
right?
10 years
You
between
aging
us.
well, my brother. If you know
Hey,
what I'm
man,
saying, if
look,
you got
hey, man, look.
all you gotta do is get the little, you know what I'm
You know
saying?
what I'm saying? Listen, man. I look, man. I embrace it, bro. Like, I come from a place where a lot of the homies I grew up with, a lot of the people I grew up around didn't live to be old men. So I embrace it, bro. Like, it's a badge of honor. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
get to grow older, to grow wiser. to still improve on our skill and our art. That's what this project celebrates too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does. So many dope tracks that I want to jump into.
Mm, thank
You talked about how the sound that you were known for in Japan and how you thought that his sound, which is very like very like he uses instruments, right? There's a lot of
you.
instrumentation. It's a high level musicality, right?
Hmm.
It's hip hop too, right? I love me a loop. I love me a 2 bar loop, and if it
Yep.
knocks, but the level of musicality
Hmm.
enters jazz, the jazz greats of yore. Um,
Hmm.
when you talk about the sound that you were known for, I don't want to define your sound, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I know that era very well of a Tribe
yeah.
Called Quest, the early Gangstar, the
Hmm.
Jazzmatazz, the later Guru
Hmm.
albums, and this whole era of hip hop that unless you know it and study it, it's not here with us today in the
Right,
sense
right, right.
that, well, music is so big that there's artists doing all sorts of things. But
Hmm.
this album has so much musicality. What would you call that sound that
Yeah,
you're known for?
yeah, yeah. A lot of people in the lane. It's had a bunch of different names over the years. Probably the one that has been used the most is like jazz hip hop or like jazz hop. But the term that's probably the most popular now is like jazz rap is what they call it. Some people like you like describe it as like lo-fi hip hop and stuff like that, which typically is more on the instrumental side.
Yeah,
But like those are just kind of some of the different things that or different subgenres that I get associated with. The
yeah,
way I've like started defining what I do though, because even though jazz has been a major part of the foundation, ultimately like what my goal is the way I see it is soulful hip hop basically, right?
yeah,
Like or soulful rap for those who just kind of want to limit it to just rap. But for me it's soulful hip hop. I think when you listen to soul music, right, and what are the core things that make soul music, I think those elements in some ways in terms of subject matter, in terms of like what it is like I want my projects to represent, I think it's more aligned with that at its core.
yeah,
And like most great soul music, when you listen to a lot of great soul music, man, like sure there was some like R&B slash soul at the core of it,
yeah.
but there's also you'll also find like some jazz elements, some like big band elements sometimes, right? Like some experimentation and stuff. So when you look at all the great soul artists, the way they kind of like what their palette included, it was always kind of more than just what we expected. They found ways to broaden it, and I feel like that's one thing that in terms of what I've brought to the lane, I feel like that's what I've consistently done. So soulful hip hop is how I prefer to describe it, but like jazz rap, jazz hop, jazzy hip hop, whatever, I've heard it all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's interesting how, well, first of all, the album's spectacular, right?
Thank you,
Mastery of
brother.
the artistry, bro. It's like you could put it on, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, because I'm thinking also like outside of just like a playlist, right? Like how
Hmm.
I've got my hip hop playlist. I got like I find dope songs, and so much of the music is consumed that way. But this is an
Hmm.
album that I could see them like a sneaker store in Tokyo,
Hmm.
right? And they
Yeah.
put this album on, and they play it from start to finish, and people are like, "Who is that? Who is that? Who is that?" Because it takes you on this journey musically, but then you
Hmm.
come with the dope voice that you have and the lyrics, and you know what I mean. It's such
Hmm.
a nice combination, a
Thank you.
really well put together album. Bop Alloy, does that have a meaning?
So yeah, man, it's Bop, just short for bebop. You know what I mean? And then alloy. Like when we think of like alloy in terms of metal, it's oftentimes a fusion of different metals to make something stronger, right? So
Yeah.
what we're doing is like we fuse that jazz sound, right? We fuse that jazz sound into like the hip hop slash rap music that we make to make this something stronger, right? Like to carry on tradition, to be torchbearers, all the things, but to like blaze our trail and bring together these different elements to form, it's kind of on our Voltron, you know what I mean? Put these different things together to make something stronger,
Yeah, because Bop Alloy, when you guys joined forces, right, and you're
hmm
now in the third project, I guess there's like a sound that
hmm
is that you're kind of like, all right, this is what Bop, because you've got your career and
hmm
he has his work. So when you guys are working as Bop Alloy, you kind of have an understanding of what people are going to expect, and you're making
hmm
new music within kind of like certain parameters. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I definitely think that, people who know us, like there's certain things you expect without a doubt. And I think that like what we consider every time we make it is we know what the expectations are, but our goal is always to find ways to push it forward, right? Like I feel like there are a lot of times there are some people or some artists in the lane that they very much are comfortable with, like we just kind of keep doing the same thing. Where I feel like, because of the different artists I've worked with over the years, whether it's people like Kokai, whether it's people like Tone Deaf, Odyssey, a long list of like folks I can continue to shout out,
Yeah.
Megaran, etc. Like all of these people, I feel like when I've worked with them, I've seen them figure out ways to progress what it is they're known for, right? How
Yeah.
to like stay true to who they are, but how to push the art forward. And so at the end of the day, like I'm trying to make sure that, like as torchbearers of a sound that existed before we got here,
Yeah.
like we stay true to what makes that sound, but we find ways to make it our own and also make it feel like it's still going forward. And it's not just quote unquote just kind of sitting here doing the same thing like super comfortable, like just being the same. And so we'll find different ways to kind of, do that. And yeah, man, it's been dope to kind of like hold those, I guess, those old school elements and different things that we love growing up, but still like find a way that like when I play it for like people from that lane, people of that ilk, um, they appreciate it. Like they can hear that we're paying homage, but at the same time they can hear that it's a progression. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's a fine line to walk. But I'm proud of what we've done and salute to all the OGs that have showed us love over the years and stuff and recognized the work we've been putting in.
That's really good, man. That's really good. To jump into some of the tracks, right? So you got the
Yeah.
visual for you don't have. I needed to write this one down because for whatever reason, I don't know why you don't have no
You
idea,
don't have no idea.
right? You know what I'm saying? I want to say you have no idea, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's got a little more
Yeah,
on
oh
there,
yeah,
right?
man. Somebody mama. You know what I mean? Like you don't have no idea. You think you know, but you don't have no idea, baby. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I hear one of my aunties right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
The open in line, right? You're like referencing the famous quote about 10,000 hours, and that's where you've
Yeah.
reached mastery. This album has mastery in the title, right? Mastery of the
Mhm,
artistry. And right out the
mhm,
gate with this is the song you did a visual for, and
mhm,
you're like 10,000, more like 30 or 40, right?
mhm,
Talking about your long career as a
mhm,
solo artist, as a producer, as a torchbearer in DC, but also what you've done, being signed and going to New York all the time, going to
mhm,
Japan, all the stuff you
mhm,
did in Japan, having to learn another culture in the record business
mhm.
in another land,
Yeah.
and then now here we are, right? Third album, Bop Alloy, right? More like 30 or 40. Talk to us about that song.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And when I say that line, it's really like with the album, like Masters of the Artistry, really what it's about is like it's kind of also playing with the ideas like if when you the more you study you realize that even when you reach a level of mastery when people look at you as a master you realize that like yo but I still feel like there's more to learn, right? Because the art form is like it's still growing, it's changing in different ways. And so as great as I like, even as I'm reaching like new heights and stuff, I learn something new and I'm like, oh, let me figure this out too. So this record is really just talking about like the journey of it. And so when I say more like 30 or 40,000 hours, it's because like, even when you're seeing me as like being at a certain level, I'm like, yeah, but I already see that there's more, like there's more ground to travel, right? Like the journey hasn't ended. So for me, it's like this journey of mastery, like never ends, fam. Like as long as there's breath in my body, I'm trying to find ways to push boundaries and get better at what I do. And so, yeah, man, like this record in particular is just really like, it's kind of like my journey as an independent artist, right? Like I teach music business classes, and one of the first questions I ask my students, I was like, what's the difference between a professional and an amateur? And the answer is really simple. It's like the moment you sell your art, you're technically a professional, right? Like a professional is able to make a living from what they're doing, like, or being able to sell your art. And, and also getting artists to embrace like, yo, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not talking about capitalism. I'm just like talking about the fact that, yo, this thing has value. And when you understand the value that your art has, right, you understand that there are benefits from sharing that gift with different people. And different people, depending on how it hits them, they'll value it at different levels. And so what you got to understand or learn for yourself is like, where does that value come from and how to move forward with it. So this song really talks about like, it starts with the first time I sold my art, man. I was in like second or third grade. I think second
Right,
grade.
right. You tell the story. You tell the
Yeah,
story in the
yeah. I tell the
song.
story, and it's because people love to talk about hustling, right? And being like what a hustler is. And this isn't me trying to be hard or none of the things. It's like, nah, bro. Like I grew up around, like we've heard all the stories from a million rappers about how rough their neighborhood was and what they did to get by and all the things. And it's just like I was around that same stuff too, right? But one of the things I learned real early was, yo, there's a lot of things I can sell to make money, right? And I'm pretty good at this. Like I'm pretty like, and this is before I even started rapping. This was just the
Wow.
visual art side of it. And when I realized people wanted my art, I just got to a point where I just stopped doing it for free all the time. Oh, can you draw? Can you draw this for me? Cool. Well, I'm gonna need this much. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
gonna need. So that's something I adopted early, man. And I just learned to keep money in my pocket and stuff. And my uncles taught me about like interest and all of this stuff, like really, really young. So I'm loaning money to my brother, to my uncles. They paying me back with interest. I give them 20 on Monday or 20 at the end of the week before. They give me 25 the following week. And this wasn't me just naturally knowing that. This was what they would say. Hey, let me use 20 this week. I give you 25 next week. I'm like, bet. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, I just wanted to really make a song that captured this and really let people know it's like, man, when you think of me, you're just thinking of when you first heard me rap. But I've been on this journey my whole life. Like, so yeah, man, that's what the record's about, and just realizing also like defining success on your own terms and all of that. And yeah, like I think everybody has that dream of being able to buy your mama that house, make it so she ain't got work no more, create a certain life for her and other people in your family. And unfortunately, this journey, like of being an independent artist and kind of move in a particular way, it's not always like the most profitable or flashy
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's like I built my career on integrity and really just kind of holding certain things, certain aspects of the art form and certain morals, like, holding them up a particular way. And that's not always rewarded.
Yeah.
So I think where I found joy in the support that my family is like giving me over the years and how they recognize like more important than what type of money I've made off of this. And I do all right. So I ain't complaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
But more important than that, they are proud of the man I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I mean to my family, what I mean to my children, what I mean to my community and stuff. And shout out to Maryland. I was like, yo, shout out to DC, shout out to Virginia, all of that. But I'm technically from Maryland. I just wanted to clarify that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and to the point, you're a very successful artist, tremendous
Thank you, brother.
discography, storied career.
Thank you, brother.
Those who know, you know what I'm saying, and those who don't can find out. It's all over the internet, you know what I'm
You know
saying?
what I mean?
But to your point, there has not been a moment where you've ever wavered in your character and in your
mm,
approach to your craft, right? And I
mm,
think that's what you're covering right now, which is, I could have, taken a shortcut. I could have followed trends and done certain things, right? I mean,
mm,
in the DC area, right, in Virginia, somehow the Clips made it the home of Coke. You know what I'm saying? It's like
mm,
where
mm,
it's like an area. It's crack epidemic of the 90 in DCs, right? So it's like,
mm,
but you have taken an approach that has always been one of integrity, of skill, right?
mm,
Where
mm,
we're like, how good am I with the pen? How good am I with the production? How innovative
mm,
can I be? How can I create my own lane? So
mm,
that's
mm.
that's really dope. The
Thank you,
video
bro.
for this joint, where did y'all shoot that video at?
Man, we shot it mostly in Italy. We shot some in Spain. Like the rooftop shot is all in Spain. And some of it in France too. But like the most of the shots, like most of the second verse is in most of the second verse and like half of the first verse are shot in Italy. But yeah, man, shout out to my man Keith Wildchild Middleton, man. Shout out to him and his wife Kiara. They put us up while we were like on tour and stuff, and like we took some time to shoot the video for the song, guerrilla style, man. Just using my phone and a GoPro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
when you
So.
guys are you're like at the Coliseum, that's the Coliseum.
Yeah, that's the Coliseum. That's not a screen.
Yeah.
And so the reason why you see people walking in front of us is because people didn't know we were filming. Like I just literally I set it up using my watch as like a monitor. You know what I mean? I set up the phone or whatever a certain amount of feet so there's nobody in front of us. Like so
Yeah.
not making it super obvious. And then we're just kind of posted up, and we didn't tell anybody. My homegirl was like, you want me to stand over here to block people? I was like, nah, let them through. It could be interesting. And so those two moments in the video where someone cuts off, like the
Yeah.
timing of it, like when what I'm saying in
Yeah, it's
those
like he
moments,
like he like you finish your thing and he walks by and it's like, oh,
yeah,
perfect, right?
yeah. And that wasn't like multiple takes, man. We shot that one time. You know what I mean? Just like, let the song start and then let it run through. And so yeah, man, they just walked through at the perfect time, but that's the beauty of like art, man, and filmmaking and music and stuff like that.
Yeah. Dope video. And that's dope
Thank
because
you,
you guys
brother.
were on tour. You were doing like some shows out there.
Yeah, yeah. We had a couple shows in Europe and stuff, man. We did two in France, one in Spain, and we originally had something in Portugal, and then, ended up not panning out, but it was cool, man. Like it was my first time. I've been back to Europe since the last time we toured, but this was my first time touring out there in like 9 years. So it was dope, man, to go back, and every fan out there that chopped it up was like, please don't make it another nine. I was like, nah, I ain't trying
Wow.
to do that. Trying to be back out there next year, God willing. So
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah, the you got a joint on there with Blue, right?
yeah,
A
shout out to
legend, a
Blue and
legend,
Exile.
yeah. Um from out
Shout
here in
out to their new
LA.
album too, which is tough as well.
Yeah, yeah, he's such a workhorse. But him in Exile,
Yeah.
like, that's like such a special chemistry.
Hmm.
But talk to us about that joint, the joint
Yeah.
with Blue.
Yeah, man. Like we
Audio
when I was
Sunshine, right?
yeah, Audio Sunshine. So yeah, man, I was out in Tokyo with Marcus recording the album, and I had the first verse and the hook for that. We laid it down, and then man, we just started listening to it, vibing out like, yo, this is gonna be special. And then Marcus D was like, man, what do you think about getting Blue on this? I'm like, hit him up, bro. Listen, look, all he can say is no. And
That's
Marcus has
right.
done songs with him before. So he reached out, and Blue got back, was like, yo, man, the beast fire, substantial killed it. Yo, like, yeah, I got you. And which is funny. I didn't do that on purpose, like the got you thing in the hook. But 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 yo, and it was crazy because but after we had recorded it, like it wasn't even a week after we recorded it, Blue sent his verse back. Like I had to leave Tokyo to go to Kathmandu. I went to Nepal with Words Beats of Life to do some stuff out there and some shows and classes. And by the time I landed in Nepal, man, like Marcus had already sent me a rough with Blue verse, and I'm like, yo, this is gonna be crazy. So heard that, got excited, and then when I came back to Tokyo to finish the album, we were listening to it, and we were just like, yo, it's dope. We were just kind of going through all the tracks, and then Marcus was letting me hear some new beats. And so the second half of the song, where the latter half of the song when it switches. When he first played that beat, I was like, yo, this beat is crazy. But even though it's not exactly the same, it sounds too close to Audio Sunshine. So I want to use it on the album, but I feel like it's going to end up being these situations where we got to cut a song. And then we came up with the idea to kind of just splice it together with Audio
Yeah, to do
Sunshine.
like a flip.
Yeah. And bro, once we did that, it was like, oh man, it's out of here. It's out of here. But yeah, man, I love that record. Shout out to Blue. I feel like that was a long time coming because when his debut album came out, my
Yeah.
second album, Sacrifice, had just dropped. And like a lot of places I was going on tour, shout out to Cunning Linguists, I was touring with them. People kept coming up to me and being like, yo, man, you heard Blue? And I hadn't heard the album yet. But I realized when I heard it, I was like, yo, people keep asking me because that jazz and that soulful sound that they
Yeah.
got, they felt like it would be a great collaboration if we ever did it. And so it's sad it took this long to
It
happen, but I'm
finally
grateful.
happened.
Yeah, exactly, man. I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful. So shout out to
Yeah.
Blue, shout out to Exile too, man. Would love to do something with him someday as well.
Yeah, and it says a lot for hip hop and also for you and for him and Exile, that
Mhm.
y'all are all active.
Yeah,
Because you're talking about the Heavens Above album, right? Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
classic album, and then obviously your work, right?
yeah.
For both of y'all to still be, very much active in creating new music and touring and collaborating, right? So that's really
Hmm.
dope that all this time later. You were just at the Peppermint Club. I was like, is he shooting the video with Blue? Is the video coming? You're right here.
Well, I know, man. Nah, that was I did a show with Marcus last year. We were kind of previewing. We had just dropped the first single from this album, and we had went out there to kind of preview some more of the record. So we did like 3 songs from the album. Did damn near a 2-hour set, man. Because in the middle of our set, a woman had passed out, and so like, man, the show had to stop for a
Bro,
second, and
your shit is hot when.
bro, look,
You
it was
got it. You
crazy,
know
man.
you're killing it. It's like, do I still got it? You still got it.
Yeah, man. Listen, my random joke after that was like, I don't know if I ever want to be that good.
Yeah,
People just
yeah.
dropping, and it's funny, man. Like, we found out the woman's name, so we checked on her the day after the show. She made the same joke. You were just that good. I was like,
That's
nah,
good. That's good.
I don't want to be that good. Hey, shout out to my man Blitz in the comments, man.
Shout out,
Hey
shout
man, I'm
out.
gonna look. I'm all this talk about Blue. I'm gonna go listen. I'm gonna put on Blow the Heavens. Like
Yeah,
after, you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Great record
Absolutely. That's dope. And another joint, you know what I'm saying, before we move on to kind of some other substantial stuff, because I want to cover more of your career. You got
for
so
sure.
much going on, to
Mm.
include this week with Mega Ran, right? But
Yeah.
you got the other joint that I gotta ask you about because it's such a
Mhm.
special song is Wind Blows. Man, I asked the joint
Yeah.
because I was listening to the joint. You know how like you got it in the background, it's like it's a dope album, you know what I'm saying? And then I had to
Yeah.
come out the room to where my
Yo.
phone was. You know what I'm saying? Like, add to my
Thank you, brother.
playlist. This joint right here is
Thank you, brother.
incredible. Very, very profound lyrics. Talk to us about Wind Blows.
Yeah, man. Wind Blows was it was definitely the first song we recorded, maybe the first song I wrote for the project. Um, yeah, man, like, you know, I think a lot of times, not a lot of times, I think sometimes as artists, man, we have the pressure because we care what's going on, right? So we put this pressure on ourselves, and sometimes the pressure comes from the community to like talk about what it is that's happening, right? What we're seeing, what we're experiencing in real time and stuff like that. And of course, that's not something I shy away from. But I feel like there's sometimes this pressure to have it all figured out too. Like I'm supposed to like not only talk about it, but there's this kind of this expectation to have answers, right?
Yeah, like
And
what's your opinion on this?
yeah, and it's just like, nah, I don't. I have an opinion, but I don't have answers, right? And I make opposite observations, and try to put two and two together. But the truth of the matter is, man, like if we're really being honest, and that's important. If we're really being honest, none of us really know why this stuff is happening the way it's happening, right? And like, sometimes you run into people of faith who will be like, well, God says, well, and it's just like, yeah, but it's called faith because it's a belief system. And if it's a belief system, you're not talking about what you know. You're talking about what you believe, right? So I think with this song, I didn't really it wasn't about answers. I just wanted to point out the irony sometimes of life, right? Like, 1 second I'm getting a call from my man, like I'm literally getting a call from the producer of the song, or a text from him telling us like that my man passed, like telling me that Nujabes passed away.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, you know what I mean? Somebody, like one of my homies has a baby that just came into the world. Right. So it's just like, as quick as you're suffering like a heavy loss, you know what I mean? There's also something to celebrate. And so trying to walk that line constantly, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm out in the park with my daughter, right? Like, and a lot of these references, it's important to point this out. A lot of the references in the song, they're real situations. I'm not just juxtaposing things to make it more interesting of a listen. It's like life is interesting enough. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. So I think what I've done as I've gotten older is like I've seen enough at this point in time of my life that I don't have to exaggerate so much. I
Yeah.
talk about what I've actually seen. So that line where I talk about getting locked up behind bars or whatever for selling dope, and then a dude coming out like and becoming like a really great car salesman. Like that's based on my boy's cousin, right?
Yeah.
Like that's literally what happened. So like, yeah, man, just I really wanted to just talk about like life and never knowing which way the wind's gonna blow. And I think it's also why I'm so cautious sometimes when a whole lot of good is happening, right? Like when all the blessings are coming and stuff, like I get super nervous about like, yo, damn, whatever's
I know
coming around this
exactly what you're
corner,
talking about.
yo, it's gonna be a doozy. Like that's a real fear of mine. And I forgot this random woman said to me one time, she was just like, baby, I'm gonna need you to just not worry about that so much and be fully present in these blessings, right? And because it might just be just nonstop blessings. You know what I mean? For the for the, just for the future in the meantime, in between time. So just be present in that and stop worrying for something bad to happen. Stop worrying about something bad coming around the corner. And so, yeah, it's challenging, man, but that's really what I wanted to capture in that song, like what that feels like day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a special song. You do
Thank you, brother.
you do such a great job with using the pen to create images of
Thank you.
the how quickly things could go one way or another in life. It's
Thank
really
you, man.
powerful.
Thank you,
The
brother.
I want to make sure that we touch on this and not brush over it. You have a producer you work with for a long time, and he
Mm-hmm.
passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you could, maybe we could just take a minute to like homage him, and what I'm saying, make sure that we give him his proper, because he was an important person in your career.
Yeah, for sure, man. Rest in peace, Nujabes. Nujabes signed me in 1999. Was when I signed my first record deal. Also, shout out to because it wasn't just him that produced my first. He owned the label, but it was him and another producer named Mona Risick, who later went by DJ Dextream. He also had another alias, a few aliases. And both of them were the team of producers I worked with at Hideout Productions to make my debut album, and later went on to make more music with them. Unfortunately, Nujabes passed in 2010, and then Dextream died like 5 years later. You know what I mean? And so yeah, man, like obviously, both of them had a huge influence, on the early years of my career in terms of like helping me get my name out there, producing big records with them, that did, kind of put me on the map early on. And it's funny, it's weird saying that. Like, it really just kind of established me mostly in Japan.
Yeah.
And then started to kind of bring some attention to me, to the people who were digging like really deep in the crates, looking for like rare stuff. And man, I'm eternally grateful for what those guys saw in me and the opportunities they gave me early on, and what we were all able to kind of branch out and do, because
Yeah.
a lot of times people forget. Like, I think they think about Nujabes and his success, and they sometimes don't realize that, like, when this dude reached out to me, this is at a time that neither one of us were really that known. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's hard to think of that now when you go to his page on like Spotify and see like 1 million monthly listeners. But this is at a period of time where like nobody really knew us. This is pre his first album, pre my first album. Same thing with Dextream as well. So rest in peace to both Jen and Naoto, man. I'm grateful for what those brothers did for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Uh, when we last met,
Mm.
couple years ago, you had just dropped Adultish, but since
Yeah,
then you dropped Adultish 2.0.
yes,
Let's talk about 2.0.
yeah,
What new stuff came with 2.0?
yeah, man. Well, what I wanted to do is like I love doing an album and then being able to reach out to my network of folks and see what take they put on it, but not just putting it out to like the people I already know, but also sometimes reaching out to like some of the fans who I know who also do music and giving them a shot too, man. And so shout out to the amazing remixes that came out of it. Shout out to Kokai, who did like 4 remixes on there. Shout out to AJ Rios, who has 2 remixes and the 1 original song that's on there. Shout out to amazing poet Ana Kaona Rocio Milagro, who has an amazing poem at the end of it. And just all the many producers who contributed, man, and did really, really dope remixes for it. Jimmy HD, who am I forgetting, man? Oh man, so many people, man. I'm gonna remember the names in a minute, but I'm grateful to everyone that contributed. I just love. It was also my way of, because Adultish was like the first full length album of mine that I produced every
Yeah.
single track. So it was an opportunity for me to reach out to the homies who I know would have contributed if I had hit them up out the gate. And so shout out to oh my God, my man. Oh, I'm blacking on his name. My man J Soul. J Soul did one of the remixes as well, man. And yeah, dude, it's some great joints on there. Highly, highly recommend that. Like, anyone who hasn't heard it, you go check it out, because it's some joints on there. More than a few fans have hit me up saying they kind of like some of the remixes better than the originals. I ain't take
You're like, what you
offense.
talking about? I produced the
I was
original.
like, I could feel a way about that, but it's just like, hey, man, I wouldn't. What I said to one fan, I was like, I wouldn't have put them out if I didn't think they were fire. So shout out to like everyone that contributed, man. Shout out to who else? My man K Murdoch as well, who produces for Mega Ran. He did a dope joint on there too.
When you were thinking about this 2.0, were you thinking about like, um I'm gonna put this out to my community and just see what comes back, or were you thinking like, I want to remake this album and
Mm.
have everybody, whatever the best new version is, that's how we're gonna go? How did you kind of come into it thinking versus how it turned out?
Yeah, initially, man, I sent the email blast out to like, all of the dope producers in my network. And then after been sitting with them for like maybe 2 weeks, then through my Patreon and my Bandcamp page, I uploaded the acapellas there, and then like let the fans know too. It was like, man, like, any of y'all who got dope production, shout out to Jimmy HD. Jimmy HD was one of the people who wasn't in my network but made a really, really dope remix, and so I knew I wanted to include it. And shout out to AJ Rios too, because AJ Rios is another great example of someone that like now is a part of the fam, and he's a part of the team. He's the drummer in my band, but he started out as just someone who was a fan of mine, who reached out, sent me some of his music, and I ended up becoming a fan of his music, and now we work closely together. So So yeah, man, initially I just wanted to give that opportunity to people in the network, see what came of it. But then as the stuff started coming in, it was so much, man. Like it was so many dope remixes, but I had to at some point be like, okay, I don't want to just throw anything in here because some of these joints are really, really dope. But if I'm piecing it together like an album, right? Like
Yeah.
because it is an album, so I need to kind of rethink the order based on with the production, the direction of production now. And then, you know, even though certain people have really great remixes, it was like, you know, I was like, maybe I should put more of this person's remixes on here just so there's more glue and connectivity from track to track. And so shout out to Kokai, because Kokai, man, I sent it to him on a Friday. Hey, man, or maybe a Thursday. And then, bro, he sent me the whole album back remixed. Like,
Crazy.
and I don't mean weeks
He
later,
didn't
bro.
sleep.
He did it in a weekend, bro. He
That's
remixed
crazy.
the whole album in a weekend, bro. Kokai is, yeah, he's an amazing
An
artist,
animal,
man.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's dope. That's dope. That thanks for the backstory on that
yeah.
dope project, and it's really cool to see creative things like that. You release uh, 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 a project that you produced, and it was a really dope project, and then you did this with it. You know what I mean? Really
Mm-hmm.
innovative. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
one of there's not too many genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask. It's a thing that's been kind of coming up more and more, and I think that you're a really good person to ask because of not only your career as an MC and a producer, but also you're a person that um, kind of sits on the cutting edge of technology. You know, you host
Mm-hmm.
weekly live streams. You're active
Mm-hmm.
on basically every major platform, even beyond the Instagrams and the TikToks and the YouTubes into the Patreons and the Bandcamps, right? So you're really
Mm-hmm.
innovative on every all the tools that we have at
Mm-hmm.
our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
The new tool that's here is artificial intelligence, and as it works
Mm-hmm.
its way into every sector of
Right.
humanity, it's in the entertainment industry, right? And it's
Sure.
working its way into music, everything from samples to production to mixing and mastering.
Mm-hmm.
um, just some thoughts as we are right now. This is like a
Mm-hmm.
timestamp, right? Because this is moving so fast that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'll look back and be like, this is where we were in May of 2026. What are your thoughts with how fast this is going, how it's being used, how maybe you're using it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some pros and some cons, some advice, and or maybe be cautious. Just where is substantial
Yeah.
today on AI in this thing of ours?
Yeah. You know, so in terms of how I use it, right? Like I don't use it for my creative process, right? It's not a tool that I need, right? Like for like to create. So you know, that's where I am with it. I'm not quote unquote like telling other people that they should or shouldn't. You know, I would say this though. I think that right now I find it interesting how there's this push to quote unquote not regulate it, right? Like the you know, and the people creating it and doing all of these different things, they don't want the clamps on it, right? Like they want to be able to do whatever it is. And I find that interesting, right? Because look at like what do these people look like? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, these people don't look like us, right? The people who are like, yeah, let's no, like we should be able to do it. So of course you feel like that now. But it's always interesting what happens, right? Let's say more black and brown people start to use it in ways and do groundbreaking things with it, push it to places it never been. It's never been, or people didn't even imagine it potentially going. And then here comes the regulations. Here comes what we can, what we can't do. This is owned by this company, this, that, and the third. It's like, so the more this thing progresses and the more like any community or whatever that wasn't intended for, like is able to leverage it and take advantage of it, I'm sure the limitations will come along with that. And then like, you know, and then we'll see the fees and all of the different things that make it a little more difficult or for the average person to use. And this isn't, and I don't want to make it about solely about race. Like, it's really always at the end of the day about money. You know what I mean? And so
Socioeconomic.
yeah, it's always that. But it just so happens that in this country, oftentimes the people who have the least, right, tend to look like you and me.
Yeah.
So like so those are my thoughts from that standpoint. I want to be clear though, right? I'm not a person who's anti-regulation when it comes to this. I've literally, as a member of the Recording Academy, and and participating in Advocacy Day, and going to meet with Congress and speaking to people in government about my concerns. I told them in one of the meetings that I had where they asked me what are my thoughts on if there was a way to basically be automatically opted into it where they could give us a particular payout every time like our music was used, right,
Yeah.
to make something else. And they were like, how would you feel about that? Would you be willing to do that? And my response was, hell no.
Yeah.
And my reason for that is I was like, nah, I am not for anything where you get to decide what the price is, right? Like, that's a terrible idea. It's just like what we see with streaming. I get it. You created a certain technology, but your technology only has value if you're able to access all of our catalogs, right?
Right.
So that being said, the last thing I want, and I think most artists don't want, is a new tool to come about where there's monetization that's happening around our stuff, but we have no say in how it's and how the like how much is being paid to us, right?
Yeah.
So every artist, I think, like should be able to negotiate their own rate. I don't think you should be automatically opted into it. I think you should be asked. And I think that if you decide that's what you want to do and you're good with the rate that they're giving you, cool. But if you're like, nah, if you're going to use my stuff, hey man, I'm going to need this particular rate because I'm very clear that while I might not be the most popular artist, I understand that influential. And I also understand that there are artists that are, or like people who are a lot more popular than you and I, who are fans of me. There are
Yeah.
people like who are at record labels and all these different places that you don't think of and associate with me, who I know personally. They know who I am. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So it's like I might not be household name, but some of the biggest artists in the world know who I am.
Yeah.
Be texting me, they be in my DMs, all the things. So I understand that I have far more reach and influence than the average person recognizes. So no one's going to set a price for me. I'm going to negotiate my own rate. And what I said to that congressperson is you do the same thing with sampling. It's like if you're not setting a rate where it's like when I contact someone to sample their stuff, there's no predetermined rate. They
Right.
get to negotiate as high or as low as they want to go. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so if you're not regulating that, where there's this flat thing based across the board, like literally someone can say, "Hey man, look, you can sample it, but I'm taking all the royalties. I don't want you to get any royalties. This is a real thing, or I'm
Yeah,
charging
absolutely.
you." Yeah, so yeah, man, I think it should be treated the same way. So those are my overall thoughts on AI. I think it's like most things, it's a tool. You know what I mean? I don't think it. I think that we ultimately when it comes to whether it's good or bad, that is up to the individual, right? Like
Yeah.
you're going to decide if it's used for good or bad. And so it really comes down to like, do you have good intentions or you have bad intentions? And ultimately that will determine what you use it for. Because for me, I'm not using it to do anything that I typically hire other people to do. I'm using it to do like administrative stuff
Right.
that I typically don't send that work to other people. 9 times out of 10, I'm the one that's doing it, or my partner slash wife is assisting me with that type of stuff. And now it's just kind of it's a way to kind of do that a bit quicker.
Yeah.
And it serves that purpose, so I can get back to the art sooner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really appreciate that, that input. there's it's really interesting because we're at a moment in time where um there's people that are creating like AI record labels, you know, where they've got like little avatars that rap, and they make, so the whole thing is AI, almost like a comic book. You know, like if you think of like
Hmm.
comic book characters, right? Like if the way maybe like gorillas did back in the day, where they had like these
Hmm.
like cartoon, right? But that was humans. That was Dell. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This now is like not a human, right? So
Yeah.
there's that lane, and then there's people like, nah, this is not AI. This is, you
Right.
know, 1000% an NPC, and my, you know, me, and that's my voice, and this is
Right.
how I did it. And there's like almost an unspoken divide happening real
Hmm.
time, happened like literally like this summer. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's fascinating to capture where we're at right now and the direction where it's going. And it's fascinating to hear the input from a person that teaches business, has such a extensive discography, and has been in the game for, at this point, decades. You know what I'm saying? So thank you
Hmm.
so much,
Hmm.
bro. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no problem, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I want to ask you now, if we start to wrap up, you got an event that you're at, you know, coming up in the next couple of days. Mega
Hmm.
Ran and many others. Mega Ran's also a legend. Talk to us
Yes,
about where you're
indeed.
gonna be at. If people want to see you, you know what I'm saying, and all of that.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Mega Ran, shout out to Alan Z, Zed Tabani, Stolen Drums, and oh my God, man, I'm forgetting the homie name, bro. Blacking out. Oh my God. I want to make sure I get everybody. But the show is basically, we're at MomoCon in Atlanta. And yeah, man, we got a really dope lineup. Aztec, yeah, my homie Aztec is gonna be there too. You know, and man, like the show is called you know, From Adult Swim to Lo-Fi. Just kind of people who are fans of that particular lane, right? Like if you grew up watching Adult Swim, and you know, like about the dope hip hop that they were playing on there, from like, you know, MF Doom and so many others, and how, like, you know, shows like Samurai Champloo led us to, like, you know, things like lo-fi hip hop and all of that. And so like this show is really like how we're doing it is a live mixtape, where, you know,
Okay.
Stolen Drums is going to be kind of like, you know, transitioning us from artist to artist. And then like he's an amazing producer himself, so, you know, like real time remixing some of our songs, like, you know, like with his original production, as we're doing like the original version that people know. And so yeah, man, it's going to be really dope. It's going to be really dope, and all of the people who are part of this event are like connected to, like, you know, anime, comic book culture, or like like TV, like shows. Like we've all had our music kind of connected to these different things. Shout out to Alan Z as well, like that movie I Love Boosters, which comes out this weekend. Alan Z is actually in the movie,
That's dope. Shout out
so we got
Alan
a lot
Z.
to celebrate, man, and we hoping that folks come out and celebrate with us, because it's going to be a great show. You know what I mean?
That's good, man. That's good. I want to make sure that, you know, in addition to this upcoming show, people know where to find you.
Yep.
You're incredibly active. You got the weekly live stream. I think that's such a dope thing that you do.
Thank you,
That
man.
that is
Appreciate it.
really cutting edge. That's really
Thank you,
dope.
brother.
Yeah, there's not that many people that are like, you know, that engaged and that cutting edge with using these tools. But
Hmm.
I want to make sure people know where to find you, where the best places are to connect with you, right?
Hmm.
And then, you know, right now the album's available everywhere, right?
Yep.
But you had released it as physicals also, so, you know, make sure you send people to your store.
Yeah, for sure, man. Right now, you can always go to my website, iamsubstantial.com, sign up for the mailing list. And then, you know, that links to all of the different socials and stuff. I'm probably most active on Instagram and YouTube. You know, my weekly live that you mentioned, called Substantial Weekly, I go live at noon Eastern Standard Time every Friday. Most of the time I'm on time, but, you know, I travel a lot. So we'll see how it goes this Friday, because I'll be in Atlanta instead of at my home studio. But yeah, man, now like the live has been just a great way to engage my audience directly, and I think a lot of artists get it, but there's a lot of artists who don't understand that in the social media day and age, one of the best things you can do is set up a consistent time when you do a particular thing. Because if anybody is lucky enough to stumble on it once, right, and then they discover that, oh, this is something you do on a regular basis, and it's always this time and always this day, like, you know, people know how to find you and they know how to get the information they need to get about you. And man, shout out to this company I work with, because they were the ones who just gave me the idea to go live. And then from there, that turned into a weekly show. And this was all because of some promo I did for like Ford Motors. But like being in that position just kind of connected me with some people who had great information about ways I could better engage my audience. And so I'm grateful for that nugget they gave me, man, and what I've been able to turn into. And shout out to my folks at YouTube who've looked out and given me some great tools and gems over the years too, man.
Yeah, that's good, my bro. Yo, Bop Alloy, Mastery of the Artistry, available
Masters of the
right
Artistry.
now, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
There's got incredible physicals. What is that? That's kind of smaller. Is that like a sticker?
So yeah, this is the sticker right here, but it was nearby. It's like that way I didn't have to go grab the full vinyl back there. But yeah, man, like it's out right now, bopalloy.com. Shout out to everyone who supported the Kickstarter, bro. Like we were able to raise $32,000 in 30 days. So,
Wow.
yo, thank y'all, man. Like, you know, we got a great fan base, but bopalloy.com. You can listen to the album. You can order the vinyl, order the CDs. We're still waiting for a lot of the merch to come in. So there's been
Yeah,
a lot of delays with that, but we got great fans and they know how this goes, man. So, you know, we're doing the best we can to get it out to the people, you know?
yeah, yeah. Congratulations on an incredible project.
Thank you,
And
my brother.
on an incredible career, my brother. Every time I build with you, you just adding to the resume.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Doing what I can, man. Salute to you too, bro, man. I love the
For sure.
platform, like what you do for artists, man. Like your professionalism and like, you know, every time this is our second time doing the interview, man. Yeah, you're super thorough, and I appreciate it, bro. Like, you
Thank
know,
you.
it's not always the same stuff. You know what I mean? So thank you for being great at what you do. You know, salute to you.
Thank you, my brother. Substantial. Till next time, my brother.
Yeah,
Salute.
man. Hey, hopefully I see you in LA, bro. I'm out there in
Yeah.
July. I'm out there in July, so let's connect.
All right. That sounds
All
good, my
right.
brother. Peace.
Peace.